Welcome to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs Podcast. Hey guys, I'm Mike Sorg, podcast and media producer for the SAE University Programs. Here in the studio with another great episode. We're going to be talking about the new Mini Baja program with an expert on the matter, but also with us, an expert at bringing the news to your lives and your hearts. It's Scott Schultz. You know
Speak
this
from my mouth to their hearts.
Yes,
that is correct.
The official co-host of this newly rebranded podcast.
Yeah.
And of course, the CDS Action News that just wrapped the third season.
Yeah, big stuff.
Look at you.
I'm excited for season 4. Big stuff in store.
Season 4, we had the renewal order. Presumably.
Actually, not yet.
Presumably. We're waiting for the renewal order. So please let everybody know how you love CDS Action News so we make sure we can do a season 4. But anyways, we're going to talk about Mini Baja. And you may have seen the video. It's been out on the TikToks. It's been out on the social media. And of course, recently we did talk to and get to know with David Sander, who's back with us once again, the Community Programs Manager at SAE International's University Programs. David, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent.
Anyway, we like to get weird, and I forgot to think of a let's get weird question for you, David.
Well, I'll give you one.
Okay, a little flip already on Ep2. We're already flipping the script. What do you got?
All right. So who is your current favorite comedian?
Okay.
That sounds dangerous.
No, it's actually current. No, I don't even know current, but maybe my all-time favorite is Nate Bargatze. He is from Tennessee, clean comic actually. He's got Netflix specials, some on Amazon Prime. Very funny. He has a podcast as well, the Nate Lamb Podcast. So, little plug for him. I know he needs it. He's maybe one of the biggest comedians right now, selling out arenas. So, that's who my favorite comedian is. What about you, David?
Well, I do like Nate. He's very well-rounded. I love, he had one little bit where he talked about his sister buying a boat, and I just about fell on the floor laughing. So I just couldn't help stop. But anyway, I'm kind of in the Nick Offerman category. I think he does a great job, in Parks and Rec, but he also does his own stand-up, and I think he's pretty funny. He's not as clean as Nate is, but at least with his stand-up, but I still think he's pretty funny. So.
Well, let's skip it. Let's just talk comedians now. This is kind of what I wanted to talk about,
Okay.
David. Thanks for bringing it up.
I like this. I like this Trojan horse of a podcast. You just want to talk comedians with Dave. You just want to recapture your days sitting out on the Michigan Speedway doing the live stream.
Yeah,
just riffing for 4 hours straight.
This was a Trojan horse to talk comedians with.
Without cars zooming past you.
Yeah. But no, Mike, you're right. Let's get the show on track. I know Dave has a hard out in an hour.
Okay, good. Well, David, for those that maybe didn't see the video, see the explanation. Of course, Mini Baja is a new competition that's going to be coming up here in September at Comvac, which is really exciting. Tell us, for those that maybe haven't caught that yet, give us kind of the cliff notes. What is Mini Baja going to be?
Well, Mini Baja is an embedded event that's going to happen during the Comvac conference. So that's our commercial vehicle conference that we have. So companies like John Deere, Caterpillar, Navistar, all of those big commercial vehicle companies are going to be represented there with industry professionals. So there's a lot of opportunities for networking. There's opportunities for technical sessions and professional development. We're going to be operating on Wednesday of the event. So the event runs Tuesday through Thursday, but Mini Baja is going to be on Wednesday. And it is where student teams are going to create a scale model of their full-size Baja vehicle. There are going to be obvious differences. The full-scale vehicle is going to be powered with internal combustion, and it obviously is going to be made out of metal. It's going to have a lot of welding and some other components to it, but it also does typically have some advanced manufacturing thrown in there to develop some of the drivetrain parts and whatnot. The idea behind Mini Baja is that we want to force teams to really dive into that advanced manufacturing component and a lot of it is going to be 3D printing, but there are going to be some other parts of the vehicle that might need something other than 3D printed, particularly with the drivetrain. But the students are going to have to make this a radio-controlled vehicle, which adds a fair amount of complexity to it. And the really cool thing about it is that whenever you scale down a vehicle, the precision and fitment actually goes up. So, with a Baja vehicle, it can be a little loosey-goosey with some of the drivetrain components and the universals and the shafts and everything. But with a smaller vehicle, you have to get a lot more precise with the fitment of those components. So the students are going to have to create a scale version of their vehicle. It's going to be powered by drone motors, so you can buy these motors off of Amazon or anywhere on the internet for $15, maybe $20, something like that, and then power it with a relatively small battery pack to compete against other college teams. So obviously, we talk about our collegiate events, and when we think about it, we think about it as the wrapping paper. The wrapping paper is the Baja events, whether it's the dynamic or the endurance event. And that's great and everything to look at, but what is actually inside is all of the workforce development that goes into the learning process that helps create these well-rounded engineers. So that's what the companies are looking for. So we decided to create this Mini Baja program so that they would be able to showcase it at this event. They could actually interact with those industry professionals. And then they have another element that they could bring into their lab with regards to, their learning objectives.
So you mentioned advanced manufacturing. Why do you want them to focus so much more on that for this particular event, which is basically why you made it?
Right. Well, a lot of companies are going with additive and advanced manufacturing. In fact, one of the sponsors at our event, Haas Automation, they do a lot with CNC machines. So a lot of our teams will have a Haas machine at their lab, and these machines are really big and expensive. Well, Haas, they wanted to redesign a tool holding component for their Haas machines, and so they used a relatively inexpensive 3D printer to go through multiple iterations of that tool holder. And as a result, by the time they finished and came up with the actual, final product, they saved a lot of time and money by doing it with a 3D printer and then turning around and making it out of the aluminum or whatever as their final product. So, whenever you think about making things out of these really cost prohibitive materials, whether it's aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber, whatever, it's hard to do that and do it very quickly. Whereas a 3D printer and even CNC machines, they can do it very rapidly. So your design takes a little while to get everything exactly right, but then the machine does all the work for you. And then you can go through multiple iterations. You can make little changes here and there in the digital design, and then the machine makes those changes for you. Come back the next day and boom, here's your next iteration. And so that's kind of where the idea sprung from, is by looking at it as a way to make multiple iterations of a Baja vehicle. Instead of saying, hey, we only have time to build one chassis. Well, that might be true if you're doing the welding with that tubular steel. But if you're going to design the chassis on a 3D printer, you might be able to make 15 chassis in just a week or two. And then you can kind of look at them and say, well, hey, I like this particular chassis. I think it's going to be best for, fitting our drivetrain and the egress of the driver or whatever they have to be concerned with. So those are a really great way to do some trial and error, but at a very cost competitive application. And so industry does that, and even the industry that comes out to our events, they're showcasing the use of that.
So we know that year-long student engagement is really important at SAE, but how does this help the student teams with competitions like this?
Well, again, student engagement is a big concern with regards to our university programs, because most of the time teams will simply just sign up in August or September and then we won't see them until the spring or even summer or fall events. So the idea is that if we can keep them engaged throughout the year with embedded events, possibly workshops like we do with Formula EV, and our winter workshop with AutoDrive, we're going to see the students more often. We're going to make sure that they're staying engaged with the workforce development, with their learning objectives. And that way, we can keep them interested and engaged with regards to the projects that they're working on to help them to become well-rounded. So that's kind of the idea behind this. By throwing it into the Comvac conference, it allows them to have something early on that maybe they can experiment with those chassis designs, like I mentioned, or their suspension geometry, and that can be something that they have, as a working model for it.
And we mentioned it's taking place at Comvac on the Wednesday. Do the students get to go for the full event and check everything out?
Absolutely. So, like I mentioned, Comvac is a 3-day event. It runs September 10th through the 12th, and they have technical sessions. They have other opportunities, like where they have professionals doing panel discussions or keynote speakers. So there's a really great opportunity for these students to see what advantages of being a part of SAE beyond that college experience that they had with their Baja vehicle or their Formula vehicle. They can actually see, oh, we do way more than put on these events for these college students. We have these professional events where they get to network with their colleagues from different companies. So that's a really powerful message that we're trying to send to them, is that their relationship with us doesn't end when they graduate college, that they continue that, and that way they can continue their professional development as they enter their careers and continue towards advancement. So there's a lot of benefits with the professional development that we provide that helps create that career mapping, so that down the road they can get the advancements that they're looking for and wind up in the positions that are suited for them.
So, of course, with this being part of Comvac, like, how does that sign up work? Is it free to sign up? And what are the dates of this event? You mentioned this is the Wednesday of Comvac.
Comvac is September 10th through the 12th. Student teams sign up for Comvac individually, and they have to pay as a student member, but it's a discounted rate compared to a professional member, so it's a lot cheaper. I think the last time I looked, it was $175, but there is a deadline for that rate, and the rate goes up to like $275 if you miss that deadline. So it's important to go ahead and get registered for the Comvac event, but then you can attend the entire conference. Now, that being said, our Michigan event for full-size Baja is starting on that Thursday, September 12th, but the entire team doesn't necessarily have to be there on September 12th. So the students that want to participate and maybe get some professional development and to do a little bit of networking through Comvac, they can go and attend this and participate in Mini Baja, and then they can go and participate with their teams starting on Friday if they wanted to stay for the full conference. They obviously don't have to stay for the full conference. They can just come and do Mini Baja and then go ahead and move on to Michigan for the start of the fall Baja event.
Are there any prizes for the winning teams at Mini Baja?
Well, we haven't set up the prizes yet because we're still waiting on a couple sponsors to decide whether or not they're going to, say, hey, we're going to do this as an award, or maybe even do a cash payout or something like that. But we are going to have some awards. Not exactly sure what they're going to be yet, but there will be some awards. They might just be, some, hand tools or something like that, but they might also be some cash awards for the teams.
And again, other than the awards, a lot of this is, as you've been talking about, it's the experience, and it's being able to be there around people in industry, learn from and build something, and being a part of something like this.
And that makes a winner out of everybody,
Right. And we also do embedded events at our other conferences. So we did an embedded event with AutoDrive at our WCX conference in April. And then we also did an embedded event with AeroDesign down at the Aerotech conference back in March. So we're trying to keep these students engaged. We're trying to give them opportunities where they can do some speed networking with some industry professionals, and really get an idea of, some mentorship opportunities as to, hey, I'm new coming into this. What would you tell me as you know, a graduating aerospace engineer or a graduating mechanical engineer? Where do you see the benefit of me being a part of SAE? Where do you see the job opportunities, showing up with me coming to these conferences? Because we do have, some of that networking availability as well, with job opportunities and postings that we would provide for our sponsors in the industry.
I know, David, you're working on a lot of projects. You got a few irons in the fire over there. Are there any hints about what things like a Mini Baja, maybe more embedded events or anything else that might be coming out that we can, get some hot takes here, some little clues coming out here for the end of the podcast?
Well, we are in talks with the people from Lockheed Martin that are heavily involved with the Rules Committee for Aero Design, and we're looking at possibly doing a more physical component to an embedded event at Aerotech. So that is something that we're looking into. We're also looking at even doing web-based workshops throughout the fall and winter season for Baja and maybe even our Clean Snowmobile Challenge. Just because it's really hard to engage students when they are in classes and try to get them to leave campus to come somewhere for a workshop. We do that with our battery workshop because, we need to have them on site to engage with the professionals, close up and be able to engage with them and ask questions. But, with our other things, it can be more of a free floating virtual workshop or something along those lines that we can put together for the students. So we're looking at a few of those things, and we are looking at a few other bigger things down the road. I can't really say anything about them right now, but I will say that one is an add-on to a current event that we have, and then the other one will be something completely brand new. Again, just letting you guys know that we're always trying to be at the convergence of the students and industry. We look at what industry needs, and we're not necessarily just taking their advice because they're sponsoring us necessarily. It's mainly because we see that the industry is changing with different drivetrains and different elements, and so we're looking at, hey, how can we be a part of that? How can we help industry by providing this pipeline of workforce coming out of these colleges, so that they have an opportunity to work, at the college level with some of this, new drivetrain materials. And, we did it with Formula EV. So the idea is that, hey, now these students are capable of building and designing battery packs. They're able to work with electric drivetrains. So, that's kind of the model that we're using. So we're looking at, other drivetrains that are out there and what we can do to try to provide that stepping stone so the students, when they walk in the door of their first career, they're ready to hit the ground running. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable, or we don't want them to feel like they're inadequate. We want them to give them a very well-rounded education from the experience that they get from our programs.
For everybody's a first timer for this one, do you have any kind of advice or tips for people that are getting into this competition, doing this first time competition, that kind of help them, be it, what's the biggest thing they should be looking out for at Comvac, and what's the biggest thing they should be doing to prepare at this competition?
Okay, so obviously for their vehicles, they should, try to envision the fact that we're going to be doing some dynamic testing similar to what they would do with their larger Baja vehicles. So they need to make sure that their vehicle is prepared for the rigors of competition. If you've ever been to a Baja event, you know that things break all the time. And as a result, you need to make sure that your vehicle is nice and rugged, and it's able to handle the powertrain, but it's also able to handle the bumps and the bruises of the course, so to speak. So that's my suggestion for the teams when they're designing these vehicles, to try to make sure that they're rugged enough, because even though the course is going to be inside, it is going to have some things and similar elements to what the Baja courses would have. But there is something that I've seen with students trying to drive radio control cars is that they will run into each other. And so not intentionally necessarily, but that also creates some breakage of parts. So, practice driving, make sure your vehicle is rugged enough to handle the bumps and bruises of the course. And then also, design it so that it can, last, with the specified battery pack for at least 6 minutes, because that's the timing of the race, is that they get 6 minutes to accumulate as many laps as possible. As far as what to expect from Comvac, the great thing about it is that it's, like I said, we always look at the pipeline of education. So there are going to be some high school students at Comvac on the day that we're doing Mini Baja. So they're going to come into our, room to kind of see exactly what's going on. So they'll get to see the students working on their vehicles. They'll get to see the students engaging with the judges. They maybe even get to see a few practice laps, something along those lines. So the students are going to get to see that, hey, we even reached down to the high school team, to the high school classroom to try to get them interested in STEM education, in the automotive industry, or the mobility industry, so that when they are looking at colleges, they can say, hey, I want to go to this particular college because I saw them at Comvac and they had a really cool platform that they were doing, and they were getting ready to go to Michigan to a full-size Baja vehicle event. And so they learn about it through the engagement that we provide, and that way the next batch of those students are filling in those shoes of the students that are moving into the careers. So it's a really cool pipeline system that they have set up. And again, the fact that they get to network, you get to sit down and have lunch with all of these professionals from all over the industry, so whether it's Continental or I'm trying to think of some other big commercial vehicle companies, even Amazon might even have a presence there because they do have commercial trucking, that they have for their distributorship. So, they go out and buy, thousands and thousands of distributor trucks. So they are possibly going to go here. And there's a whole group of industry that we're kind of not even really mentioning with regards to our agriculture. So even designing and building agriculture equipment, whether it's harvester combines or whether it's a tractor or whatever, the idea is that there's a lot of industry out there that these students can go into and learn a lot about while they're at Comvac, and say, I never thought about being a part of the GPS agriculture system. So now I'm going to shift my mechanical engineering skills into getting a little bit of more mechatronics, where I can help design these tractors that can go out and do whatever for the farmers, so they can work with a smaller workforce.
You said mechatronics. That sounds a lot like a transformer.
I know. I've heard this. I've had to have the students define it for me as well. I don't. And for those that don't know, David, I think you could probably do the best definition of that for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah. So mechatronics is basically where you're using some programming and electronics to actuate or get some mechanical systems to work. So when you think about it, think about an air conditioning system at your house. You have this big compressor. That compressor basically takes a gas and compresses it outside, and then when it decompresses it, it cools off that gas, and then you run some air over the top of it, and you push that cold air into your house, and now you have air conditioning. Well, how do you get that thing to run all day, not all the time, but only when you need it to regulate the temperature in the house? Well, you're using a thermostat. So you're using an electronic device that then is operating this larger mechanical electric device that's providing the air conditioning in your house. So a lot of our automated systems are designed around mechatronics. And when you look at FIRST Robotics or any other type of high school or college robotics system, that's basically what they're doing. They're doing mechatronics. Even though there's mechanical engineering involved, there's electrical engineering involved, it's mechatronics because it's that combined nature of that product.
There you go, Scott. You got a new wrinkle.
Yeah, I learn something every day.
Yep. Especially when on podcast day. David, thank you so much for this. I'm really excited to see what comes out of the Mini Baja competition. I can't wait to hear everybody. Hopefully, we catch up with students at Baja, Michigan.
Who were there?
Huh?
Who were there?
Who were
They
there?
can give us a
and
little
they can
update.
give us a little update about what's going on when we're doing our interviews there over the weekend. And
And will you be there, David?
I will be at both events,
Okay.
and I know that Cal Poly SLO is registered for both events, so
We'll
I
catch
know
up.
that they're going to be there.
Cal Poly, we're looking for you.
Shout
Yeah.
out.
And so the idea is that as soon as the other teams start seeing these Mini Baja vehicles, I think it's going to kind of hit like wildfire in terms of, oh my gosh, we're going to have to build one too, and that kind of even goes to sponsorships, like, this kind of, came to me just this past week was if a team is doing Mini Baja and full-size Baja and they're looking to land a big sponsorship, one of the cool things they could offer them is a Mini Baja vehicle. It may not necessarily be radio controlled or anything, but they could 3D print that vehicle for that company to set in their boardroom or up on a shelf somewhere as a talking point for other people that are coming into that business and say, hey, we sponsor, whatever college's, Baja program, and this is their Mini Baja vehicle that they gave us, to kind of, thank us for sponsoring them. So there's another element that teams could capitalize on to basically, make Mini Baja an even profitable thing for them.
I like that. And I'm hoping to see. I know as you've been talking, I've been thinking about how much I've seen, especially this year, last year, more of the RC cars kind of bouncing around the Baja paddocks these days. And I just I just seemed like I think I got a good shot of one going around there in California where you announced this event actually on stage. It just goes. I just more and more I think about how this goes hand in hand. It's incredible. So again, looking forward to that. And again, just an update because you did mention I wanted to clarify about that early student rate. You're correct. It's $175, and that deadline is August 16th to get that lower end rate is going to bump up to $275 afterwards. So if you want to get the deal on that, get that taken care of very soon for all your team members that want to be involved in this. And you just go to comvac.sae.org. To look for the information for registration and more info, including the all the sessions and everything. I was actually looking through a lot of that as we were discussing this and see all the fantastic conversations that are going to be happening there. So
Big stuff.
Big
Very
stuff.
exciting.
Absolutely.
And just to reiterate that Mini Baja is actually free for teams. So once they're registered at Comvac, they don't have to pay to do Mini Baja. So that is one thing that we were trying to look out is that we realize that there are barriers for teams, and we wanted this to not be one of those things that's cost prohibitive. So, it is free, but you do have to sign up for Comvac. You cannot sign up for Mini Baja and then not sign up for Comvac and expect to be able to compete, because we will be checking those rosters. And if you are not on the Comvac roster, you will not be allowed in the conference center. So I apologize for that, but it is what it is. I had no control over that, but again, you can look for sponsorships. There are some companies out there that even have foundational support for going to conferences, professional development, whatever, and they might even be able to pay for your actual registration to Comvac as well. So that's something that you could look for.
Excellent.
Well, Mike, thank you again for having me. I appreciate it. And Scott, I enjoyed chatting with you as well.
Always, David. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
There you go.
And we'll catch up in Michigan for Baja.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Can't wait to hear how everything went. But thank you so much, David. Again, stay tuned to everything. Make sure you download your apps for your respective competitions for information on this and other events coming up. Stay tuned on this new podcast feed. We're gonna have you're gonna at least a podcast a month and likely more coming up here as we're retooling what's going on here and in the coming months. We got a lot of great conversations coming up.
Be sure to subscribe.
Be sure to like, subscribe, rate us, and leave a review on the Apple Podcasts and whatever other podcast platform that you are catching this show on. Thank you, everybody.
We'll read your review live on air.
We'll read your review here or on CDS Action News. Who knows? So thank you so much. Thank you, David. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs Podcast. Show notes for this episode can be found at beyondthecompetition.fireside.fm. Remember to stay tuned for updates on your competition's newsfeed or app, and follow SAE_University Programs on TikTok and Instagram. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next episode. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Competition.
I like to start with getting weird.
Okay,
You know,
okay, let's start that off
we
clean.
want to set the vibe for the pod.
Restart that. Start that off clean.
Side note, I like when podcasts are a little messy, you know?
Yeah.
It's a little more in the moment.
Now he's philosophizing about podcasting on the podcast. This is part of the show, right?
Yes. Actually, can we leave this in? Because I just want, some more less polished. And I like that for a pod. Anyway.
Anyways.